Good evening or afternoon or morning, depending on when you are actually watching this. We are going to be making a very special card fold for you today in the workshop, and it's called an accordion gatefold card. I've seen it a couple of times at least on YouTube. Susan Campfield and Karen Hodges, and I have converted it to centimetres because, as most of you know, I don't feel comfortable with 7/8 and 3/8 and things like that. So, having said that, there are crucial measurements with this one within the centimetres as well. So, yeah, off we go, eh? So this will finish up as a card that will fit into a 5x7 envelope, with a little bit of a wiggle room, because it's not exactly those measurements, but that would be your most appropriate one. And also, you could, of course, make your own box as well if you preferred. So here is the card. It's rather a thick card, as you can see, there's lots of layers on it. And I've finished it off with a belly band, which we will be doing. So let me just take that off. Now, there are 4 different designs. So, well, actually, there's more. 4 different sheets, excuse me, 4 different sheets of toppers, and each one of them has 2 or 3. So you may well have a huge difference than this one here. And I'm going to be doing a different one in a minute as well. So it's entirely up to you, whichever one that you are going to go for. When we open it up, we open up with an accordion. We've got room to write our sentiments and bits and pieces in there, or alternatively on the back, but also it stands up beautifully. There's a lot of layers. You may not want to put all the layers on. You may want to only put one layer, and I will give you the measurements for 1 or 2 layers in case you prefer. When we look at the back, you can see that it is plain on the back. So again, you could put your writing on the back. And when we shut that up, as I said, we've got a belly band that will keep it all together for you to put in your envelope. So let's do some cutting. Now, I did ask you if you would cut some bits and pieces and prepare some bits and pieces. So I'm just going to bring in these, which you will hopefully have done. So this is the leaf corner. It is a set which is joined together, but does cut separately. And so I'm quite happy to say just leave them together, to be honest. And we have got, I have asked you to cut 6 pieces altogether. So that's running that through 3 times from your blushing pink mirror card. Okay, so that's that one all done. Pop them to one side. Then I asked you to cut some of your white card. So we've got one piece here, which is 15 centimetres by 22. Then we've got this piece, which is, let me just check my measurements, 9 centimetres by 27.5. This piece, which is 3 centimetres by 28. And then this little piece, which is 6 centimetres by 7. And then, as I say, oh, upside down, I've got my sheet. So in my case here, I could use that for at least 3 and maybe a combination of them as well. Okay, so let's first of all do some scoring. So I'm going to take first of all my white piece of card, which you've already cut, and it's 15 centimetres by 22. And so then along the long edge, I want to score at 5.5 centimetres from each end. I found that that gave a better finish than saying, it seems as if it would be exactly the same, but it didn't sort of seem to fit in there quite so nicely for me. So I would say turn it rather than score it at a certain length instead. So I'm going to pop the long edge in there, and I'm going to score at 5.5, and then I'm going to turn it around and 5.5 the other way. Okay, So that's that piece done. Then I'm going to take my longer piece, which, as we said, was 9 centimeters by 27.5, and then again along that long edge I'm going to score at 5.5, sorry, moving it around, 11, 16.5 and 22. Okay, pop that to one side. And then before I get rid of the scoreboard, I'm going to take this very short piece. So one side is 6 centimeters and one is 7. I'm going to score it along the 6 centimeter edge, and I'm going to score it at 1.5 centimeters and 4.5 centimeters. Okay. Oh, I should have got that out for you to see. Whoops. Okay, so let's assemble some other bits and pieces. So I'm going to take my card first of all, and I'm going to fold along these lines and give it a nice crisp burnish. We've used linen cards. We are going to put lots of layers on, so we don't need a very, very thick card. We're just going to use that like that. So that's our base card. Then we've got our fold card there. So the first one we want is a mountain fold. Then the other way as a valley fold. Then another valley fold. And then another mountain. So it's mountain, valley, valley, mountain. And what that will do, if you pay attention, so to speak, to this middle bit, that will give you that accordion sort of look. And if I bring in the card here, we're going to be assembling it something like this. Okay, so that's our card base. Now our little belly band here, this is going to become our belly band, but I have not given you any other measurements than that, because it will depend on how you finish your card as to how what the exact measurements will be. So I will show you how to assemble that, but in terms of measurements, that's the only measurement I'm giving you really, that it's 28.5, I think it was, 28 by 3, and that just gives you plenty of scope on that one. So we can pop that one to one side. So then we're going to decide, let me just show you again on the main card. Going to decide whether you want 2 layers or just the one. So you've got 2 sheets of cards which coordinate with your toppers. They're all of the same type, so they're the same colouring background and the same flowers and all that sort of thing, but they will vary from designs, and also of course giving you huge scope as to what part of that page you wish to choose to be part of your design. However, I have also put on here, as you can see, the blushing pink background as the first layer. So it's down to you. You can use the 2 layers like I have done and like I'm going to, or you could decide not to use the mirror layer and only use your card. It will give you a thinner finish card, but it's a very, very thick card anyway. So in this case, giving you a thinner card isn't an issue at all. So I would suggest that you just decide whichever you want to do is absolutely fine. So let's cut out the first layer, whether that be your mirror, which it is in my case, or if you choose to do just one layer, this is the layer that you would cut your card from, your coloured card. Okay. So we have, in my case, mirror card. Let's just put that right at the top. So we have one piece which is 10.5 by 14.5. We have 4 pieces which are 5 by 14. And then we have 5 pieces which are 5 by 8.5. So lots of card there, lots of card. Those are the measurements if you want one layer. So whether you cut this from mirror card and then you're going to do another layer like I am, or whether you want this from your patterned card is entirely up to you. So that is the measurements for those pieces. Okay, for one layer. Now, if you want to use 2 layers, you then need to position yourself like so. So this layer is 10.2 by 14.2. Now, if you wish, you could use this as a slightly different, you could make them much wider, and you could say that would be 10 by 14 and round them down a bit. But because it's a smallish card, I think that the very thin edge looks even better. So it's a bit like saying it's 1/8 of an inch, that type of thing, just a very small layer, but entirely up to you. So we have got one piece which is 10 by 2, 14.2. Then we've got 2 pieces that look very similar, 4.7, 14.2, and 2 other pieces, again, 4.7 by 14.2. That's just the way that I wanted to cut my pattern out. Okay, and then down the bottom, we've got 4 pieces which are from the pattern, which are 4.7 by 8.2, and 1 piece of white card, which is, again, the same, 4.7 by 8.2. Okay, so that's all of your card and all of your cutting done. Now, I'm going to then put these together, stick all these pieces together. Whoops, throwing them on the floor as well. That's really not ideal. So all of these can be now stuck together. So this is the panel for the inside. So if we were just doing one layer, you wouldn't be sticking this down here now because you would only be using that one piece. But I think that that very thin layer just sets that off nicely. So then we've got our 4 strips, long strips. Oops. And as I said, I've looked at the pattern that my piece of card gave me, and then chosen to cut them out in this way. You'll see what I mean when we put it all together. So it's a very thin border all the way around for that one. And then this one, so this gives you 2 for the front and 2 for the back, or 2 the inside, I should say. And then that one goes in there like that. So there are those pieces done. Putting them all up on the side. Then I've got my smaller panels, 5 of them in total. And again, I've got 2 lots of 2, so 2 are the same. So that's 1. And this one is one again. So you can see that they are similar. Then these two, they're also very similar. So exactly the same measurements, but they've only got like a very small hint of pattern on the bottom. Didn't want anything, wanted to cut that on more plain piece, but again, that's just my choice. You could go all out. So that's those pieces. And then finally, my white piece, which I'm not going to use to stamp or anything like that. Might even use one of the sentiments that's in the topper set for that. But that could be also where you write who it's to and from. So there's all my panels all ready to go. And I'm just going to pop them all together there. So let's now take the small piece of card, if I can find it, where we scored already. So this was the 6 centimeters by 7 centimeters. We scored it at 1.5 and 4.5. And then I'm going to take my cutter, put it back in so that I'm on that short edge again, and I'm going to cut it in half, which is at 3 centimeters. So what you've then got are two pieces exactly the same that actually now measure 3 centimeters by 7, but they are scored in the middle, and they need to be scored in the middle. But I found that if you were trying to score a thin piece like that, it really didn't work very well. Not for me anyway. So subsequently, I did it that way. So I've got two pieces, and these are going to act as my sort of connector. So I'm going to bring in my card base here. So these are going to go like that. Oops, that way around. So that the fold bit is going to stick inside there, and then my card itself will stick on the outside. But I want to put it in here before I put my panels on, because then we can hide it nicely. So I'm going to put glue onto one side, so just one piece. I'm going to pop that right against that edge, so that my fold is on that edge there, and just press that down. And then I'm going to do the same onto here. And in terms of how far is it, it is, the top of it is 4 centimeters down. Okay, so let's bring that down a little bit. Whoops. So 4 centimeters down. These will be covered anyway and hidden, so if they're not exactly, but you perhaps should have made a measurement, 4 centimeters down. So now I can decorate this piece. So I'm going to take, first of all, my center panel, and that's going to go inside there. So it should leave just a small border all the way around. Then I'm going to do my two of my longer panels, and I'm going to match that up with the same pattern, so that it's the pattern that's running along there, because I thought that looked quite nice. I did have to use a little sneaky bit, so I'm going to tuck that under there so we don't notice that bit. It will be hidden. So pop that one, and of course that covers your mechanism of your connecting piece there. And then the same on this side. Again, leaving that little border all the way around. Then I'm going to turn it over And then my other 2 long panels are going to go down here, and this will be as such the front of the card. So the panel that's in the centre, as I said, I'm going to leave that so that you could do writing on it if you wish, or just leave it blank. Well, this card is really thick, so it gives you a very strong card. Okay, so we've got that, and when we turn it back over, we've got that one all ready to go as well. So then I'm going to decorate this piece. So when I look at it like that, it's sort of a, well, I don't know what shape you call that, but it's one of those shapes. And then I'm going to lay that down. So this one is in my center. So the one with the white, just the white, is going to be in the center. Pop that in there. Again, giving you that little border. And then if you recall, I did 2 sort of very small patterns down there and 2 of the outer ones. So I'm going to put my 2 like that and then like that. But that is entirely up to the individual. And everyone's going to look different because, as I said, there's different patterns, but there's also whichever way you personally decide to choose to cut from. So again, it works out really quite well. I like to see the cards with the same idea but used in a different way. It's really nice. Oops, that one there. Just trying to line up so that we're straight top and bottom. And then got one there. So now we're going to put this onto our card. Now we're going to lay it so that it is flat. That's how we're going to stick it together. So the one thing that we need to get into position first and foremost is this middle piece here. So I'm going to measure that top and bottom so that from the very top of the card, let's see, is 3 centimeters down. Okay, so that's about there. I will measure it when I get in there in a second. So that's where that's going to go. And I'm going to put some of extra strong tape, I think, down these pieces. That will probably be the best option. So let's just put a piece of that onto there. So that's with these flapped over. So that's the side that you're putting that on when they're as closed as such. Now I'm not going to remove that tape yet because I want to make sure that everything's in the right position first. So I'm going to put glue on the back of this centerpiece. And as I said, I'm aiming to put this piece in the center. 3 centimeters from the top, 3 centimeters from the bottom, and just let that dry. Then I'm going to remove the backing from here of my tape. And I'm going to have to hold that down and then close that over the top. And I'll do the other side. Take the backing off, hold it down, and then close that over the other side. So that when I then pick my card up, we will then be able to concertina it so that it closes like that. Now, as I said, I have got 2 layers there, so it does make it quite thick, but I still think that it finishes it by putting that little bit on there as well, the coloured card, the mirror card. So in order to get it in the correct position, this is important that you stick that piece first, then take your tape off, and then lay it completely flat, because then when it goes together properly. So just going to put then my little corner flowers. So of course these are made corner leaves, I should say. These are made from the same mirror card here, so it goes in quite nicely. And I think for me, one up in that corner would look nice. Now you have to sort of think about what is actually going to show. So do sort of think about how you want your design to finish, because in some parts of it, it may not show at all. So for example, I'm going to be putting my topper card onto this panel here. So really anything that's put on here is not going to show necessarily. So if I take my topper, if you can see what I mean, that the actual, if I put one of those corners on here, you wouldn't see it. So I think that it's probably best that I just put one on there, and then I've taken the little pieces out. I'm going to put one on this corner here. So a little bit of glue, don't overdo it if you can help it. One up in this corner. Oh, stay when you're told. And then I'm going to go for a piece. Said to cut all of them out because it gives you that leeway. You may or may not want to use all of them. I'm just thinking whether I just want to use them like that. I probably do. I just think I want to use 3 on this one, but entirely up to the individual. On my other one, I've put them on all 4 corners of the main card at the back, and then I've also put one down the side here. Whoops. Just sneak that one in. Oh, I think it needs to go up there as well, don't you? Yeah, do need one up there after all. But as I said, individuals. And then we're just going to, I'm going to put the topper on the top. And then we've got all the elements together so that then you can decide how thick or where it is that your belly band wraps round. Hold that in place. I should be more patient, shouldn't I? So that when that closes, I think that looks better, doesn't it? You can see both of those there. So my topper's going to go on the centre there. Putting it in more of a rectangle so that it doesn't overlap. Placing that on there, and then my belly band. Now, as I said, there really isn't a measurement to give you for this because your card may be much thinner or much thicker than the one I've got. So what I do is I'm going to hold it over the top, more or less in the middle. So more or less giving me an equal distance, but they are going to wrap over at the back. So if they're not equal distance, it really isn't important. And then I'm going to gently fold that back. And this one, gently fold that one back, because I do want to be able to take this on and off easily. Okay. So when I've folded that in place, I can then make that a bit more definite from that way. Now, I'm going to put a bit of glue on the back in a minute, but do we want to put some embellishments on there? Now on this one, I made it slightly wider, but I just trimmed a piece of card off and then I cut out one of the butterflies that goes on there. So that was just how I finished it. But for this one, I thought that I might use some of this embellishment. So this is sort of one of the longer panel bits, which I thought would be quite nice. And then I thought, so I'm going to cut a piece off that's just going to go in the centre there. And then I thought that I could put one of the sentiments. Let's do this one. Someone very special. And that can go on in the centre, which I thought would look quite nice. So I'm then going to measure my width here. Now, this will not be necessarily the width that you've got. So I've got a piece which is 11.2. So I'm just going to trim that end off so it's straight. And then put this in at 11.2. And then I can just add that to the centre. Like that. And then my little band, which I'm going to have to find myself a little piece of foam. You would think I had enough foam, wouldn't you? But to be honest, I have. Oh, but I had the wrong size. So I'm just going to put one of those little squares on there. And again, none of this part is vital. It's just how I wish to do it. So you can choose. So then when I put my bands back on there, make sure that I can still slide that up and down, turn it over. Now I could trim some off, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to put some glue onto one side like that, and then making sure that's even, just hold that in place. So yours won't be far off that size, but as I said, it really depends on what you've got going on in the middle. But the main thing is that you can, it's not too tight, so that you can move this on and off. Okay, so give that a chance to set. So that's your belly band. This is your card, which then opens out like that, stands up like that, writing there or on the back, whichever you prefer. But I think it gives it, I love the card, the actual design. And I hope you do too. So all of the items that I've used are available if you needed any of the mirror card or anything like that. So just pop over to the Crafty Workshop section of the website and you'll be able to see what we have there. Thank you so much for joining us. I do look forward to seeing you again at another workshop very, very soon. Thank you very much. Bye.